derivative market, at least my parallels, because it feels very similar to me. You know, we just tried to set LIBOR. Seems like a very simple thing. Set LIBOR, that wasn't very easy, but now we don't, you know, in the US they don't have LIBOR anymore because we couldn't set it right. What are the simplest things you think there would be? What's the cost of money? So you imagine setting carbons like, and trying to measure the carbon footprint of an Amazonian jungle. Right? How much was going to be deforested? How much is in the ground now? How much does it absorb? The LIDARs and drones and the things that they're doing to try to really measure it is very difficult. And guess what? Sometimes they get it wrong. And sometimes LIBOR is wrong. Guess what? Carbon's wrong. And how people measure and sell those products, of course, also has the same issues you might have seen in derivatives in the old days. Example 2. I love when we had credit default swaps, and then the argument was, did it default or not? It seemed very simple. Did it default or not? Was the carbon removed or not? How do you know? It's difficult. That's why we need standards and things, but it's the same concept. You get there and you have to figure out ways to solve these kind of issues. I put this up here to say derivative market, like ISDA, not really, but it seems, you know, solves all problems. You all get together, you have groups, you solve all problems. Here's groups involved in the voluntary carbon market, very few of who existed 10 years ago. You know, you don't see Moody's and S&P on there. Right? Most of these are just startups. Lots are API guys trying to find an API angle. Lots of guys were old. The rating agencies are people that were used to do rating at other places, decided to get into this field. And then the governance and accreditation is just self-designed groups, just like ISDA was at the time. They got together, but there's too many of them. And again, the environmental, there's very different opinions on what the right direction is to go. So we need industry involvement and trying to gather it together as we go forward. Standardization is a continuous process, but many people don't understand that. I gave an example of when we had counterparty credit risk, we kind of introduced the idea of collateral. And that's good, we solved the problem with collateral, that's fantastic. Well, we started a bunch of other problems when we brought in collateral. One, people got way more levered, because everybody thought, oh, I'm protected. And two, people started doing collateral arbitrage. Like, oh, you owe me this, you can deal with single A on this, and this is what you're paying for it, and I could get a triple A on this. And that wasn't the intent, but that's what comes out of solving a problem, and then what are we going to do with the next problem that surfaces? The same thing has happened in carbon credits. People put up standards, and people abide by the standards, and then they realize the standards might have had some loopholes in them, or things people didn't create. And so those are the things that really get, well, no, those were the standards. I came to you matching your standards. You gave me credit for that, and now you're telling me, oh, your standards are wrong. And so how do you live in that environment where you're constantly changing and getting better without killing the market and saying old stuff is bad and new stuff is good? It's no different than if they change the emissions on a car, they don't take your car away and throw it away and say you don't have any value. They just say new cars have to have that. So somehow we have to get that same kind of thing in the carbon market. So enter Rubicon Carbon.